Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games. Today we are talking about the Echoes of Wisdom reviews that came out this morning, and I think for a lot of people, the scores are a little bit softer than some expected. Now, that doesn't mean the game reviewed poorly by any stretch of the imagination. It's currently sitting at an 86 on Metacritic. However, there are some reviews that really skew towards the lower side of the scale. VGC gave this game a 6 out of 10. So today we're going to be taking a look at the good reviews and the bad reviews and kind of see what is going on with this game. Let's get into it. Alrighty, a good Wednesday afternoon if you're watching this on a Wednesday afternoon. Today I wanted to sit down and look at the Echoes of Wisdom reviews that came out this morning because I woke up at like 5 a.m., checked my phone, saw the Metacritic sitting at like an 87, I think, and I was like, oh, that's a little bit lower than I expected, especially when you compare the game to other Zelda games. Now, obviously comparing 2D to 3D a little unfair, but Tears of the Kingdom 96, Breath of the Wild 97. It's here that it gets a little weird though. Link's Awakening 87. So Link's Awakening actually got better reviews than Echoes of Wisdom, and that was a remake of a Game Boy game, whereas Echoes of Wisdom is a new game built from the ground up for Switch in terms of, new puzzles and new dungeons and bosses and all that. So to see it get a lower review score than Link's Awakening is frankly very surprising. Now, not counting remakes, the last new Zelda game to get that low of a score, I mean, here we see A Link Between Worlds 91, Wind Waker 90. So I mean, Twilight Princess 86, but even then, that's a remaster. Phantom Hourglass 90, Spirit Tracks 87. I'm struggling to find. Okay, Triforce Heroes. The last Zelda game to not review extremely well in either the high 80s or low 90s was Triforce Heroes back in 2015, which, funnily enough, also developed by Grezzo. That was a multiplayer game though, so I'm not really that surprised that game didn't review that well. I know a lot of people don't like that game. I actually quite enjoyed Triforce Heroes, so make of that what you will. But yeah, for the most part, new Zelda games, new mainline Zelda games, do not score below 87 even. I'm looking here, Minish Cap 89. So for Echoes of Wisdom to come out and be an 86, I think for a lot of people it's just kind of surprising because everything we're seeing of this game, even though they're trying something new with it, looked very promising, looked very strong, looked like a new exciting direction for a 2D Zelda game, even with the idea of like, okay, we know we want like a more traditional Zelda game. It's still hard to deny the fact that Echoes of Wisdom still look very exciting. So for it to come out with the lower reviews that even Link's Awakening Remake, despite 86 still being very good, I think for a lot of people that's just kind of like surprising, right? Like most first-party new Nintendo releases over the course of the Switch generation have generally been, if not the best entry in the franchise, one of the best entries in the franchise. Fire Emblem, Kirby, Xenoblade, Luigi's Mansion, the list goes on. Like, so many franchises have had their best entry on the Switch by most people's account. So for Echoes of Wisdom to come out and not be that for 2D Zelda, while that's a very high bar to live up to, right? It is still almost a little surprising that they weren't able to do it in a way. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the review scores for this game and also just kind of read through some of the nitpicks people are having, but also some of the positives people are having for the higher end reviews. As you can see, it's sitting at an 86 on Metacritic based on 78 critic reviews, which once again, just want to, final disclaimer, I understand 86, pretty high score for a video game, right? Like 86 is a very good score for a video game. However, it is true that it is also a low score for a new Zelda game. So I just want to clarify that once more. 86, very good score. Lower for a Zelda game though. So I know I'm gonna get comments being like 86 is a good score, and also you shouldn't care about Metacritic scores anyway. It's still fun to look at what other people are saying before a game comes out. But let's go ahead and jump into this. Starting off, we'll start with the top because that's what we're starting with here. The Enemy gave this game a 10 out of 10, 100 points here. They say Echoes of Wisdom is a great send-off to Zelda's most successful era. The game is the ending point for a very clear path started by Breath of the Wild and continued in Tears of the Kingdom, of games that have an unyielding faith in the player's ability to solve problems in very creative ways. All of that is combined with the structure of a classic 2D era Zelda game. So they think it's a send-off. They think this is the last they think this is the last open-ended puzzle design Zelda game, which I find a little funny because based on the interviews we got the other day, I mean, I think it's very clear we are never getting, or maybe not never, but within the next decade, probably not getting a Zelda game that is more traditionally designed with, dungeon items and that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's a little funny, but they seem to love it here. True Gaming gave it a 9 out of 10, saying Echoes of Wisdom offers an excellent classic Zelda game experience. The main idea of the game is very fun as it gives players unlimited options in how to tackle the puzzles and confront enemies. You will not find two players playing the game in the same way. GameSpot gave it a 90, saying, if Zelda's debut in the spotlight is a one-off, at least it's a memorable adventure, but hopefully this is the beginning of a new legend for the heroine. Echoes of Wisdom's brilliantly integrated ecosystem links two eras, proving that the freeform mechanics of the new age can coexist with the franchise's classic formula. Don't mistake this for a spin-off or minor entry between big mainline games. Echoes of Wisdom is a major moment that shouldn't be missed. And hey, that right there, that sounds promising, right? If GameSpot is saying that the echo mechanic and the more open-ended nature of puzzle solving in this game also meshes well with the classic, more traditional dungeons of the older 2D Zelda games. That is promising, right? If that is the case, if they manage to strike that balance, that is a good sign. VG247 comes in with the first 8 out of 10 for the game. Really, Echoes of Wisdom feels like the perfect sign-off for the Switch, with new hardware reportedly on the horizon. They had to mention Switch 2 in their review. It's a colorful, accessible epic that pushes its console to the limits with all of the mechanical depth and invention, artistic design, whimsy, and spirit of adventure that you expect from a first-party Nintendo adventure. I will say I saw a lot of people talking on Twitter and on social media in general that apparently the game's frame rate is actually worse than Link's Awakening. We'll see if that actually ends up holding true. I really don't know. I never really had that many issues with Link's Awakening's frame rate, to be honest. And I mentioned this because they're talking about how there's reportedly new hardware on the horizon, so at some point in their review, they must talk about the tech behind this game and how it's pushing the Switch to the limits. I personally did not mind Link's Awakening's frame rate stuttering that much. I understand it had it, especially in that one like swamp area very early in the game, but as long as it's only like on that scale, I don't really think it's going to be an issue. I know, once again, though, people react to frame rates being choppy in different ways. For me, as someone who plays on Switch a lot, yeah, the game made for Switch shouldn't be having frame rate issues, but at the same time, as long as it's only occasionally, it's not going to be a deal breaker for me. Going back up a bit here, Nintendo Life gave it a 9, saying, "The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom should be the new standard for top-down Zelda going forward. Rather than abandoning the classic formula, Zelda has shown that the old and the new can come together and produce wonderful results that reward experimentation and reinforce the joy of play. This is easily in contention with A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds as one of the best top-down adventures in the series, and we hope we don't need to wait another 35 years for Zelda to take a starring role again." Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Even if Nintendo looks at the reception to this game, which, once again, high review scores, but still lower for Zelda, you can still do a traditional Zelda game where you just give Zelda a sword. I mean, even with the spirit form or whatever she has in this game where you have a sword, if they want to have 2D Zelda be Zelda's thing now, I'm completely fine with that. In fact, I think I'd actually like if the 2D Zelda games are Zelda-focused and then the 3D Zelda games are Link-focused. I think that'd be a kind of a cool balance to mix. Maybe not every time, right? Maybe we do get a 2D Zelda here every once in a while where Link is playable. And I guess in the context of how often they're releasing these games now, that would basically be, you got to pick one or the other if we're only going to get one every 10 years, which is what it's looking like at the moment. Hopefully we don't have to wait, 10 years for the next 2D Zelda game. Hopefully Grezzo takes what they learned from this game and immediately applies it to another 2D Zelda game, be that a successor to the Echoes of Wisdom with the Echo mechanic, or be that a more traditional game like A Link Between Worlds. Hopefully we don't have to wait, 10 more years in between entries. Both Screen Rant and Power Unlimited gave the game a 9 out of 10, but they both also mentioned the technical flaws of this game, so I expect when we get to the lower score reviews, that's going to be a major sticking point for a lot of people. WCCF Tech says, "The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom brings some new ideas to the table, but in the end, the game is more about modernizing the classic 2D Zelda experience. The attention-grabbing Echo copy mechanic has its pros and cons, but where Echoes of Wisdom consistently hits is in the tried-and-true design of its world and dungeons, which are as good as any the franchise has delivered in the past. This may be Zelda's first starring adventure, but past legends still echo strongly here." So that's the first mention of the Echo mechanic being, having pros and cons. That's another thing that I think will probably bog down the reviews quite a bit for this game when we get to like how easy it is to just use one Echo throughout the entire game. It's kind of like the little bike thing that people made in Tears of the Kingdom, right? I think it's going to be like that, where there's only a few Echoes that really matter. You're going to get some overpowered Echo, and then that's going to be it, right? That's what I'm kind of expecting the lower reviews to kind of focus on. Game Reactor UK says here, "Is Echoes of Wisdom the perfect blend of old and new? Not quite, because despite the great freedom, some Echoes are simply more reliable than others, which makes you wonder if the great freedom is really necessary. Nevertheless, the Princess's debut game is the best example yet of a Zelda game where two very different design philosophies are allowed to complement and not trump each other, which is why it can be recommended to all fans, new and old." So once again, another review mentioning the Echo mechanic kind of not being all that fleshed out, or maybe, like I said, maybe there's just a couple that are really good, and then people will just use those. And I guess that depends on the player, right? If you are someone who's very creative, I guess, and you're willing to just try new things for the sake of trying new things, maybe you'll like the Echo mechanic more. But if you're someone who just wants to win and do the best that you can, you're probably going to get like whatever the highest tier mob is in the game and just spam that, right? Got an 8 from PC Games saying, "Echoes of Wisdom introduces refreshing ideas, but it can't keep up that initial excitement." Yeah, that's something I also talked about in my impressions video after playing it at PAX West. The Echoes mechanic from what I played there was interesting, right? Like I was very into it. I do wonder how that will last through a 20-hour adventure, because it seemed really cool from what I played there, but I don't know how it's gonna, shape up in the full game. Twinfinite gave it a 7 out of 10, saying, Echoes of Wisdom has a lot going for it. There's a lot to do and discover without being overwhelming. The visuals are vibrant and fun, and the characters are really cute. Although the controls can be annoying at times, it is satisfying when you finally get past an obstacle. It will be interesting to see where Nintendo takes us for the next Zelda installment in the future. So first mention of controls being kind of annoying. I wonder, are they talking about the menuing? I remember seeing pre-release, like the huge list of echoes that you have, and having to scroll through those might be kind of annoying. That's also an issue with Tears of the Kingdom, with the fuse mechanic. I wonder if that's what they're talking about, or if there's something else where the controls just aren't that intuitive, maybe, where like you have to... I had this kind of happen with the demo at PAX West, although I thought that was me just being stupid, where because this is the first Zelda game with a proper jump button, I kept like pressing that instead of the echo button, but maybe that's not what they're talking about. Maybe they're talking about the menuing. I'm not too sure, but controls being annoying. Apparently that's a thing. Here's that 6 out of 10 from VGC, where they say here, despite some ambitious ideas, beneath the surface, Echoes of Wisdom is a surprisingly uneven Zelda adventure. Few of its headline mechanics are utilized to their potential, which means that, while enjoyable and charming, it ultimately feels less essential than other modern 2D entries. What other modern 2D entries are there, really? I guess if you're counting A Link Between Worlds, but frankly, there's not really any other modern 2D entries, I guess, except for Link's Awakening Remake. But yeah, that right there, another thing where they're saying it's an uneven Zelda adventure, where a lot of the higher reviews are saying it's the perfect blend of the open-air design, but also traditional dungeons and stuff. Now we get to these lower reviews where that didn't click as well with some people, and I worry that that's going to be the take for a lot of the community. I feel like Zelda fans are really harsh and very critical, especially of the new games, especially at Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, while they are very popular and by far the most popular games in the series based on sales numbers. And I would still say, even with all the scuttlebutt online about how people want more traditional 3D Zelda, I would still say I see more positivity towards those games than any other Zelda game, frankly, even though the negativity is also just way more. I do wonder if those people, like, how are they going to take Echoes of Wisdom? If it's this, like, half-baked attempt at kind of blending the two together, frankly, I could see this game being more controversial than even Tears of the Kingdom, if that makes sense. So we'll see with that. In fact, let's actually take a closer look at this VGC review, because this is the lowest scoring review on Metacritic, next to The Guardian there. They say here, combat is unfortunately, no pun intended, the weak link. Summoning enemies to fight on your behalf, while initially amusing, eventually wears thin. Weaker enemies like Zol or Keese are good for about one hit before they're defeated, and you have to summon more, while stronger enemies such as the spear-wielding Moblin cost more energy points and are tediously sluggish to fight. Although Zelda gains more energy points during the story, allowing players to summon more enemies at once, the mechanic never meaningfully evolves, and you're mostly stood there, like in a tower defense clone, watching mostly the same AIP hat you've been using all game slowly chip away at a boss. Despite having the choice of over 100 echoes, we mostly stuck to the same ones throughout the game, and few encounters ever challenged us to change our tactics beyond maybe swapping a fire bat for an ice one. I would say for me, this is the biggest concern going in, is that combat might just get kind of boring. Even like Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, where your weapons break, there's a big criticism that combat is pointless in those games. But those games also have like materials and stuff that you get, and there's a lot more crafting focus. Echoes of Wisdom does have the smoothie shop, so I assume you'll be getting, like, monster parts and all that, and you'll be upgrading or getting health upgrades that way or something, right? But if there's less incentive to do combat in this game than even Tears of the Kingdom, that's going to be an issue, because that is like one third of the game is combat. Maybe even 1/2 of the game is supposed to be swinging a sword at an enemy. Now they're replacing that with you summoning an AIP hat, as Andy Robinson says at VGC here, which, if this game is like 20-25 hours, I think could get really boring. But with all that said, we will have to make our own opinions for ourselves. The game releases, depending on what region you're in, it's actually out right now, but it releases tonight for the West Coast, and then tomorrow morning for the world at large. So it's not far away. We will be able to play this game and make our own opinions, but I will have my own review up on the weekend over on my other channel at It's Amiibo, where I will give my thoughts on the game. I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared of the community reception of this game. That's what I will say, because review scores for Zelda games typically skew higher than what people in the community actually think. So if we're getting 6 out of 10s for this game from reviewers, I don't know, man. I think I'm a little worried how people are going to take this game. But that is going to do it for today's video. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch news, reviews, coverage, all of that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Once again, check out my other channel at It's Amiibo. That's where I'll be posting my review, as well as an unboxing of the special Zelda Switch Lite tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that. But until next time, folks, peace.